Welcome to the Scoop World Order. The bye week is over. It is on to the Maryland Terrapins, a team that can throw the ball. They're top 20 in the nation in passing, and they can also stop teams. They're top 20 in team defense. So this is going to be a nice challenge for the team coming off a bye week. I think it's a bye week that was needed, coming off of a big road win that had a lot of stuff that needed to get fixed. Ryan Day put the screws to him last week during the bye week practices, which is great. Then these kids got to get out of here for a little bit, go back to wherever they're from, South Florida, chill at the house, get some rest, sleep in a little bit. Bye weeks are always wonderful, and I think that these guys really enjoyed it. So we're going to get into that. And what's the stretch run look like? Wild, wild week of college football. Wild week of NFL football. God bless Justin Fields, man. He played great today, and the Bears still let him down. I don't know if Matt Eberflus is going to have a job by nighttime tonight, but what a day for football all around the sphere. And CJ Stroud is balling. So we're going to get into all of that. But first, as always, we appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope that you guys had a great bye week. As always, we love your patronage on here. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like. Those are huge for this video. Click subscribe. Also, click that little alert bell. Shout out where you guys are watching from. And let me know in the comments, what'd you guys do on your bye week? Did you still watch college football all day and night? Did you take a weekend off? Did you go get some fresh air? I'd love to know what you guys did. I love watching college football, so I just outside watching it on the iPad. It was great. So, but I'm gonna bring in my good friend who's never on a bye week, Mr. Nevada Buck. Nobody hates Notre Dame more than you do this morning. How are you doing today?
Oh man, I wanted Notre Dame to win for the Buckeyes, so I did the emotional hedge, the plus 5.5 Duke bet. One of my good friends' kid goes to Duke, and he's like, Nevada, this is the biggest game in Duke football, and like ever. They're going crazy. It's going to be nuts. And I'm like, man, I like having Duke plus 5.5, and then Notre Dame runs up the middle on a meaningless play at the end, and the guy breaks it, goes all the way to the house, and then they go for two and covers the spread. So Nevada Buck is licking his wounds today, but very happy for the Buckeyes coming off the bye week. I think things broke. It could have been broken better for us yesterday. Had Auburn beaten Georgia, had some other things happen, but Notre Dame winning just helps the strength of schedule, and I think the Buckeyes are poised. Got a nice challenge game coming right out of the bye week with Maryland this week. So I'm excited to get after the Terrapins. I'm sure they are as well. So can't wait to get after it.
Yeah, I think this is a great schedule for these guys coming off of a bye week. I love that they had the bye week after a night game. They got home late, 4 a.m., exhausted, tired. They get to sleep in, get some rest. Ryan Day put the screws to them at practice for a few days. That was great. And then you look at your schedule, and you've got a 5-0 team who just waxed Indiana, a team that we struggled with week one. So, that gets your attention when you've seen a common opponent on the schedule and you look at what your score was, then you look at what they did to them, and you're like, ooh, these guys might have beat them worse than we did. And, these guys, they don't always give us trouble, but last year at Maryland was no picnic. That was not an easy game. Obviously, Dallin Hayden kind of came to the rescue that game. Nevada, what is it about Maryland outside of, I remember I think it was the 19 year with Chase, where Chase got suspended for like an improper benefit. This is back pre-NIL, obviously. And the rumor was that it came from Maryland that narked on Chase. So Ryan Day dropped like 77 points on Mirrors, like 77-10 or some absolute annihilation. And he was like onside kicking when we were up by 50, or it was some crazy thing like that. Where like, that's not normally like in the coach's code of taking care of each other when you're down or up. Ryan wasn't having it that day. But what is it about Maryland? Like they're kind of a funky team, because I think that they're a team that when they're hot they can play with anybody, and they're also, when they're cold, they can lose to anybody. Like there's not a lot of teams that can just literally, we could either beat these guys 77-0, or we could be in like a 3 overtime shootout with them with their quarterback. But what is it about these guys?
Well, they're really talented. I mean, you're talking about a really talented team that's got 4 and 5-star players all up and down the roster. But it's an undisciplined team. It's a team, like you said, when they're running good, they can play with anybody, and when it goes bad, man, they just pack it in and move on to the next week. So the Buckeyes have always had a little extra juice when they're playing against Maryland. I know with Ryan Day, yeah, I still remember. I believe the onside kick was to Olave. I think Olave was like the outside guy, and he caught the onside kick out there as the gunner, and we're all sitting there going, what's he doing onside kicking up 49-0 or something? But
Yeah.
no, I think this one will be extra special. I mean, I think if I'm not mistaken, Gaddis is like the offensive coordinator for Maryland or something, and he's
Oh
had some
yeah.
very unpleasant things to say about Ohio State in the past. I'm sure they're going to remind him about that. Ryan is making the whole soft thing kind of the rallying cry, the Buckeyes against the world, and we'll see how that picks up. But I really like I like the schedule, as you said, coming off a bye week, coming off a night game. I mean, doesn't Notre Dame play like 4 night games in a row or something like that, or
Yeah.
something ridiculous? I mean, I know they played last week, yeah, against us, obviously, and they played this week. I'm not sure what next week looks like, but you know, these night games, once in a while it's okay, but like you said, you start stringing them in a row, and it just kind of completely messes with your schedule. But I like the way the schedule's setting up for the Buckeyes. I think that they're going to have some extra juice coming this week, and I expect a big effort for them against Maryland. Especially Maryland's primarily a passing team. They can do it all, but they're primarily passing, and I think that goes to our team strength, which is defending the pass. And I think it's a perfect matchup at the right time for Ohio State.
Yeah. Again, if I'm the athletic director, or if I'm if I'm whoever's over the top of the athletic director, I'm having a long talk about why we have 4 straight night games. Because again, I know that the biggest ruse in the history of mankind is student athlete wellness, because nobody cares about student athlete wellness. Because I mean, you're not going to have like, okay, we got to play the Ohio State night game, then we have to go to Duke and play a night game, then we have to go to Louisville and play a night game, then we get to play USC at home in a night game. And I mean, that's terrible. That's brutal. Like night games, they're very taxing on guys. It's almost like you lose a whole day of rest, because, when you get done at 4 o'clock, I talk about this all the time with the noon games, you get to bed earlier, you get a good meal. Like when you go to bed at 2, 3 in the morning after a night game, man, it's hard. And you feel taxed the whole next day on Sunday when you're going through your workouts and stuff. So doing 4 of those in a row is really tough. So credit to Marcus for getting it done, but my God, like give him a little bit of help at some point. But yeah, Maryland is, like I said, I think that the schedule sets up really beautifully for Ohio State. I mean, outside of Georgia, who's got the most cupcake schedule I think I've ever seen, like, I really like our schedule. I thought that bye week is at a nice, timely spot. There were some guys that were dinged up. They could take some rest. And then, coming out of the chute, you're going straight to Maryland, and it's a real team, and it's a real test. This will be a big test for our defense. Offensively as well. I mean, they're only giving up, it's less than 20 a game. So that if you leave up less than 20 in modern college football, that puts you in the top 20 nationally in scoring defense. So I think it's going to be a big challenge. Nevada, who are some guys coming out of the bye week that you think will see an uptick in either usage, production, effectiveness? Who are some guys that you've heard could be getting utilized more?
Well, I'm always looking for Carnell Tate to kind of, I was surprised that he didn't play. And, I think Carnell Tate's a guy that the coaches are really, really high on. We've seen, little glimpses of him. And again, that's not a diss at Julian Fleming, who I'm just a huge fan of for a million little reasons why he's doing things all over the field. And frankly, that's probably the reason why Carnell Tate hasn't been able to supplant him, because Julian's playing really well right now, and we've got a talented receiver room. So he's a guy that I'm definitely looking for more usage out of. Luke Montgomery's the guy on the offensive line that can be helping out. They've been using him as that additional tight end, and another guy that you may see a uptick in production and usage going forward. And the last one I'm going to use is one that we have to see production out of. The defensive front four's got to be more productive. Like I love the defense. I'm the conductor of the Knowles Express. I'm huge fans of JT and Jack and Mike Hall and Ty Leak. But man, when you watch Duke's defensive line last night, kind of undressed Notre Dame. I mean, Notre Dame moved it, when they needed to, and at the end. But for the most part, those guys just completely dominated them, shut down the run game. Were crushing Hartman in the backfield, and it's like, look, guys, that's what we should be doing. I mean, I know we think highly of our guys. I know our guys were highly regarded coming out of high school. I know they're highly regarded by the NFL. But man, we've got to get more production out of them. For a terrific Ohio State defense, they can go from really good to like really, really, really good with just better production out of the front four because whether it be through rotating them more or schematically or whatever they need to do, but they got to start winning battles on a more consistent basis, and it's got to start this week against Maryland because Maryland's going to be throwing the ball. No excuses that we can't be getting pressures and sacks.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and I think that it was perplexing that we had our ends play the entire game against Notre Dame. It's nothing against those guys, but I watched the Browns game today, like a lot of you Ohio folks did, play the Ravens. First snap of the game, Myles Garrett isn't in the game. He's on the sideline. Why? Because you play run stopper on the first drive. I mean, so if Myles Garrett can rotate in and out of the game, then JT and Jack can absolutely rotate in and out of the game. But again, I think it speaks more to Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson, and they just don't trust those guys, not in the big moments. And again, I think sometimes you just gotta say you gotta take them off the leash, take the training wheels off, and just get them out there and see what they can do when the lights are on. I think that's something that I mean, again, practice is one thing, practice is great. But the games are a totally different thing. Like I had teammates that were fantastic players in practice, and when they got out in the game, they couldn't put it together. The lights were too bright. They couldn't produce. And again, nobody cares. There's no Hall of Fame for being great in practice. There's only Hall of Fames for being great in the games when the lights are on and people are watching, the pressure's on, and that type of thing. So I think Caden Curry and Kenyatta just got to get out there and play. I mean, I think that they got to spell Jack, JT. I mean, this is a brutal month of October. Brutal. They go Maryland, then they go to Purdue, and Purdue isn't, they're not great, but I mean, that place has been a house of horrors. It'll probably be a noon game. There'll be 8,000 people in the stands. And I lost there in 04. I lost there in 11. Obviously, we lost there the one Urban game that is like the only game that anybody ever talks about. Is like, oh my God, Urban lost to Purdue. But that place is different. I mean, it's a crappy venue. It's quiet. It's a dump. And Purdue will be, for whatever reason, they tend to play us tough. I mean, generally, unless they're just completely trash, like they've been a few times. Like, when we've been humming like we were in 2020, or excuse me, 21 when we had Garrett and Olave and we just crushed when they had Aiden O'Connell. But a lot of times, I mean, they're tougher than they look. Then we do the Penn State game, which will be the big noon kickoff, which I know you love, Nevada, that we're playing a top 5 matchup at noon. And then we go to Camp Randall. That's all in the month of October. So, I mean, that's a real month. If you can survive this one, it's huge because then you go at Rutgers, Michigan State, which is basically like 2 bye weeks. Minnesota is like a bye week at home. And then you go to, obviously, Michigan. But that's a tough looking October. Obviously, starting it off with Maryland. But yeah, I think that for me, the guys that need to have some upticks, I think that we got to keep getting more out of Donnie Jackson, man. Donnie, I love him to death. He's a guy that a lot of people, high hopes, preseason All-American, hasn't put it together yet. He's a guy that, all these guys are pass blocking well, but it's the running game that's troubling for the most part. Our pass protection has been really good. So again, it's almost, if you ask me what I prefer, that we're better at run blocking or pass blocking, obviously you guys that can do both, but pass protection is just so critical in modern football, the way that passing the ball is overpowered, and, frankly, keeping your quarterback upright is important. But, you need better technical work from Donnie, from Carson. Matt Jones has been pretty good. Josh Fryer's been real good. Our right side, our 2 veterans are playing well. And then those other 3 guys just got to keep getting better. Donnie's the guy that I thought would be the best guy on the line, and he hasn't been. And I think a lot of it has to do with his hands. I watch it every week. Tell people that every week, people that are important, like, look, you got to get his hands going. He can't keep his hands out that wide. He's going to get killed. And when you play real D tackles, they will kill you when your hands are bad. And Carson just has to keep getting his confidence up, playing with more power. Again, he's young. He's not a real strong kid yet. Most guys that are young aren't strong. So he just has to keep developing it. But, I think Carson's his own worst enemy. I know he's a perfectionist. I know he's a tough kid. But he's just got to keep growing. I mean, he's like kind of growing on the job, being that young, playing center. It's a tough task. Who are some guys, Nevada, as we head towards, they'll start promoting national awards, Tommy for the butt kiss, Marvin for the Blitnikoff. Who are some guys that you think have realistic chances at winning some of those awards?
Well, before I get to that, because I'm gonna do it, but I want to, while we're talking about the offensive lines, I want to ask you a question before I forget it. Ohio State just had a decommitment on the offensive line, and I want to kind of get your thoughts as to what are you hearing behind that? You've watched him play. What are your thoughts? What's just kind of what's the give everybody kind of the 411 on the decommitment?
Well, Ohio State parted ways with Mark Nave. Obviously, this was not Mark's doing. You know, they always try to put a nice face on it when you tell a kid that, hey, you know, we appreciate you, but you're not going to be good enough to play here. Kind of a, it's not, you know, it's not you, it's us. You know, I don't know how you do that, but you know, I've seen how they've done it before. This is a kid obviously grew up. Whole family loves Ohio State. He dreamed of being an Ohio State Buckeye. So it's tough. You know, it's tough when Justin Fry has to make that call. You know, Ryan Day, Mark Pantoni, those guys all have to get together and they watch all these games, man. For these kids, like, you know, unless you're that dude, I mean, these games, your high school games are like, you know, when you're a fringe guy, a 3-star guy, those games are like your Super Bowls. And if you're not playing like it and you're not developing and they're not seeing flashes, I mean, you got to at least flash. Because if you flash and you do something spectacular, you bury a guy, you pancake a guy, you look great moving around, then they say, okay, well, that's what we need. We just got to get him in better shape, whatever. Mark Nave didn't flash. He never flashed. He regressed. I mean, he played the same or worse than he was last year. And, you know, the thing that changes everything, honestly, is the transfer portal. And the fact that Donnie isn't playing very well. And I think a lot of people, if you had to wager money, you'd bet that Donnie was going to go to the NFL. But man, he ain't going to be, you know, he's not going to be a high draft pick if he declares after the tape he's put out so far, unless he turns it around, which I hope he does. If he turns it around and plays like a first team All-American with the power and the strength and the talent that he has, like, and he goes pro and he's a first or second round pick, fantastic. But right now, he ain't playing like a first or second round pick. I mean, you look at all the preseason mock drafts, they all had Donnie as a late first round pick. He's a preseason All-American in every magazine. And then you look at the tape and it's just not there. And I'm not dogging Donnie. Donnie wears 74. And I've told people, when you wear a number, when you play at Ohio State, you have an affinity for that number and whoever wears that number for the rest of time. So when Jamarco Jones wore it, I was his biggest fan. I mean, whoever wears 74, you know, it's a big deal. Like, you know, but I think, you know, Mark didn't develop and, you know, with Donnie coming back, they only have so many scholarships, so many spots. And, you know, if they're going to go after a portal guy, potentially they can help take Matt Jones' spot because Matt Jones is gone. He's a 6-year guy. You don't get a 7th year. So the right guard spot's going to be open. So I think they wanted to keep that scholarship and look for either if they can, by some miracle of God, get some superstar transfer portal kid or, you know, try to get a different national kid to flip as the season wanes on. But I think it's hard for all parties. Like, I don't like talking about it. Like, I don't like taking a scholarship from a kid who's from Ohio who had his dream was to play for Ohio State. He gets offered by Ohio State, commits to Ohio State, and then they take it away from him. You know, and again, I think it's a crappy way to do business, but that's big boy football. Like, don't complain to me or to Ryan Day or Mark Pantoni about, you know, oh, this guy sucks or this guy stinks, or, you know, I hear the same 3 guys, you know, that don't play at all, and it's like, oh, those guys stink. They never should have been taken. Well, they're kind of dipping it off at the pass now by not taking a guy before he signs, because then, you know, he has a chance to land somewhere that's more suited to his talents, and we have a chance to use that spot to either go after another guy that they like better, maybe a guy who's having better senior film. Go after a portal kid, because the portal's kind of the great unknown. Like right now, this is tampering season across college football. Like there's guys that are playing good, that aren't at good spots, that are at crappy programs, that want to go somewhere like Ohio State and win, and they're reaching out to Ohio State through back channels to try to figure out if there's a spot. You know, so that's going on right now. Like there's that's just part of the game. You know, I mean, you got to figure out, you know, who is at a lesser program, who could be a really good impact young player who's playing, who has good film, who you like, and you like their character, and you could slide them into Ohio State, because that's kind of what it is now. Like it's, you know, all these crappy teams that have really good players that maybe have outperformed the programs they're in, they're all up for grabs once the portal opens at the end of the season. So yeah, and Ohio State is getting very sophisticated about how they operate in the portal, and how they get information and that type of thing. So I think it's going to be interesting to see who he grabs, because it's kind of like going shopping and you've got like the Neiman Marcus Christmas catalog in front of you once that portal opens. Does that answer your question? Again, I honestly don't like talking about that stuff, because I feel like I was like a like nobody wanted me when I got to Ohio State, and I had to just work and grind. And, I mean, again, I feel for the kid. I really do. Like, I mean, I feel, when you commit there and your parents and your whole family loves Ohio State and they're so proud of you, and then all of a sudden they call you and say, hey, we don't love you no more. We're going to get a divorce from you. Like, that's hard, but that's also big boy college football. And when you only have a finite number of scholarships, like you have to, if you know that you've made a mistake, it's better just to get rid of the mistake now and rip the Band-Aid off now than it is to wait till they get here and they get settled in. And then you go through winter workouts and spring workouts and you realize, wow, this guy's absolutely terrible. And why did we take him? Because once they're on campus, it's harder to get them off. Once they're signed in here, and we've got guys that they want to get out of here that they ain't leaving. So, it's hard. It's harder to do now than it used to be. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, like it is. It's an unpleasant part of big time college football, but it's a reality. I mean, we all have to be adults about this as we discuss it, because I mean, you look at the pressure that's on Ryan Day to perform and to win.
Yeah.
I mean, you heard Ryan Day talking, and he was saying when he had the job description with Gene Smith put down in there, or I can't remember if it was Urban Meyer or Ryan Day or whatever. But he said, "Win every game. You have to win every game," and it's like, it's a joke, but it's not a joke. That's the expectation on Ohio State. It's like you have to win every game. And then not only you have to win every game, you have to win every game and win convincingly, win with style points, win with things. So, boy, when you get down to the micro level of, of you bringing players in and having players on the roster, you have to be ruthless, because it's a ruthless business, and it's a lot of pressure on everyone. And it's just like you said, it's life is unfair sometimes, but I'm sure Mark Nave will end up in a good spot, and it's not like he's not going to go to college or is not going to end up playing college football somewhere. It's just not going to be at Ohio State. But it'll be interesting to see what they do. We'll interesting to see if Fry really does have another guy up his sleeve, or if this is just hey, this guy's just not good enough, and let's just bank it and bet on the come that we can find somebody else. Because right now, the offensive line. Look, if Donnie Jackson comes back next year, you're going to have a lot of experience. You're going to have a veteran line, a really veteran line. But that's a big question mark, and we still have to get through all of this year. So it'll be interesting to keep monitoring that as the situation kind of goes along. But yeah, feel bad for Mark, but I'm sure he'll end up in a good spot.
Well, I mean, here's what it really comes down to is, at the end of the day, these coaches are going to choose their families and their family's livelihood over you as a player if you're not holding up your end of the bargain, you're not getting better, and you're not showing improvement. Like, if Justin Fry takes too many Mark Naves, guys who can't play at the level of Ohio State, of winning national championships, beating Georgia, beating Bama, beating whoever, then he's going to get moved along from. I mean, we in major college football, man, that nameplate is so easy to slide off the door and put a new guy in. So, I mean, we've seen Ed Warner get whacked. We saw Stud get whacked. I mean, if you're at Ohio State, it's only a matter of time before you get fired. And that's just modern college football. Like, it's so, if you know that you've got to, you can take a mulligan on a kid, you got to do it. Because at the end of the day, man, you got to go find guys that can play. Because the best way to be a great line coach is to go get Paris Johnson and DeJuan Jones. Go get Luke Whippler. Go get some of these guys that are fantastic players, that are NFL level players, first round picks. Like, and then you're gonna look a lot smarter as a coach when you get those kind of guys. Like Ryan Day and Corey Dennis and those guys, they looked like geniuses last year when they had C.J. Stroud. I mean, they really did. I mean, C.J. Stroud is having an incredible year. Just whooped the Steelers like 30-6, but he's almost a lock to be the rookie of the year, unless some sort of tragedy happens. But he's putting up crazy numbers, and when you have a guy like that, then you can tell Jack Miller, hey, Jack, I love you. We took you when you were a sophomore. From out in Arizona, out at Pinnacle. Great kid, great family. Dad runs the Scottsdale Princess, the whole 9 yards. But, man, the CJ Stroud kid is really good. And all of our guys are saying that he's really good. And we took him, and he got here in oh my God, he's a number 2 overall pick good after 3 years good, which is exceptional. And now he's NFL Rookie of the Year, at a time where he'd really be like a 4th-year junior, which is insane how good this kid's doing without Larry Tunsil, without his 2 starting tackles still. I watched him today, and he's really good. So, you do whatever you can to get those kind of guys at the expense of a Jack Miller. Jack Miller thought he was going to be the CJ Stroud number 2 overall pick. And, if you can upgrade the roster at any cost, you do it. So, well, I think we can, we've been going for a hot minute. Any final thoughts, Nevada? We'll wrap this thing up. It's NFL Sunday. Appreciate all you guys joining us. Any final thoughts as we break the bye week and get ready for Big Ten football?
Now, you talked about award winners. I'll put Jim Knowles up for the Broyles Award for assistant. I'll put Marvin Harrison up for the Bolitnikoff. I'll put Burke up for the Thorpe. And
Trey Henderson for the Doak Walker. That's going to be your second one after Knowles.
And Trey Henderson for Doak Walker. Absolutely, exactly. Those are my picks for postseason awards. I hope the Buckeyes sweep it, but with the way that we've been promoting players and the way that our sports information department just sucks right now, we're probably not going to win any postseason awards. But I'm a big Steve Snap guy. I admit it. I remember when we used to be excellent at that stuff, and now we're just not. But that's just that's the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Garrett, Chris Olave, C.J. Stroud, Parrish Johnson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, no major awards from any of them. Joey Bosa got beat out by Scooby Wright. Like, I mean, come on. So, you are what your record says you are. Oh, well, that's a good point to end on. Well, with that being said, I think that we're going to have a really nice second half of the season. So I appreciate all you guys being on BuckeyesScoop.com. As always, I think we've got some fantastic players developing. I think Marvin's going to start turning up. I think Emeka is already at that next level. So it's going to be exciting to watch these guys and see what they do against Maryland. Maryland's, they could be a tricky team, man, because they have real talent. They got real dudes on that team. They got guys that can start for Ohio State all over that team. So I'm excited to see what they do when they get to the shoe. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, and also click that alert bell. It'll let you know when we are going live. So we appreciate you guys tuning in as always. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.